Right, episode 2 of JD Talks. I've got Mr. Ben Birtles and Mr. Oscar Beres with me from IFLTV. How are we doing, boys?
Not bad, not bad.
Too bad.
Excited.
Good. This week's topic, we got boxing. Obviously, boxing back last weekend. A few nice looking weekends looking forward to. A few nice little tasty cards. A few topics we're going to talk about tonight. We've got heavyweight boxing. Obviously, nice big fight, hopefully going to be coming up soon. We're going to talk British boxing. For me, massively on the up. And another thing, I think, obviously, with what was going on last weekend, governing bodies. Big topic. So, let's go. Heavyweight boxing, boys. It's looking like a tasty year, I think. Ben, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, like, Fury Joshua for me is what I'm most looking forward to. But I think I'd like to see like Ruiz and Michael Hunter, Oscar Rivas, those kind of guys in against each other. I think Usyk Joyce is a great fight, obviously. That's a real tasty one. Like a good technician for me against Joyce who can bang. I think like that's a sort of fight where stylistically, it looks good. So yeah, it looks like it's going to be a good year. White Povetkin obviously coming up. White can bang, and looking forward to it.
Yeah, the first one wasn't the end I was expecting. I was expecting White to sort of wipe the floor with him, and then
I think he'll make the adjustments though, James. I think
I think so, but again, I know it's a bit of a cliche, but it's heavyweight boxing, isn't it?
Of course, mate.
Yeah. No, I think to start off with, I suppose we've got to talk about it. Joshua Fury. I mean, we can't wait to see when it's announced. Oscar, what do you reckon? I'm not going to ask you for a prediction because I know not too many people want to give them. But what do you reckon?
Thank God. If it is a 2-fight deal, right, which we're hoping it's a 2-fight deal, wouldn't mind if it is a 3-fight deal. We just want to see him in a ring. We want to see him in a ring for as long as possible. The 3 fights or the 2 fights play out so differently for me. And like you said, heavyweight boxing. I hate using that. It's such a biggest cliche going. You've just got to use it, and you can't.
It's true, mate. Yeah.
Oh, it makes you cringe a bit. But it's so true, like so true. Like, I won't believe it's done until I see the posters. And I mean, I spoke to Ed in the week, and he said Bob Arum told me to stop talking about it, and then Eddie just kept talking about it anyway. So like, I don't. Sick of the talking. When I see the posters,
you can't shut Eddie up though, can you? Let's have it right.
It don't work, but until I see the posters, it ain't done for me.
I think that's with a lot of ones, but I think especially with this, I completely agree. It's almost like a football thing. It's like you're not going to believe it until you see him holding the shirt or something like that. Until you see that poster of Fury Joshua, I don't think anyone's going to believe it.
It seemed to me like in the interview of Eddie today, it looks like it's quite close. The way he was sort of going about saying things, I thought gave me a bit of an inkling that it might be pretty close. Like, within a couple of weeks, hopefully, but that's just been, I hope so.
I think we're all just sort of keeping fingers crossed and,
that's all you can do.
Hoping it gets announced nice and quick.
There's obviously... Oh, no, go on.
No, go on, sorry. Crack on.
I was just going to say, there's obviously a lot more to it than just them announcing it. Like, you've got to think, obviously, it being a co-promotion, you've got Top Rank social media, Matchroom social media. Who puts the fight poster out first? Who uses all the clips from Fight Week, because a clip is going to get 2,000 retweets, all that, the first head-to-head. Who puts that out on Twitter first? Like, little analytics, like, it's so much deeper than... Because once it's like Joshua and Fury sort it out, you think it'll all be fine. But then you've got to co-promote the teams as well. So, like, it's the biggest ball ache, but we're there, getting there.
I think also with that, I think if I heard it right in an interview with Eddie the other week, he said that they'll more than likely announce it without having a venue massively confirmed, which I'm quite surprised with. I thought they'd want pretty much everything sort of on the table. I don't know what you boys think.
What about like the finer details? Because you have like, is it going to be Fury Joshua Fury? Which changing room? Like, there's going to be so much. I feel like there's going to be so much.
I agree. I think
down the line,
with what Oscar's just said there, I completely agree. There's so many little fine sort of details that they will have to sort of iron out. I understand
leaving the venue. I understand leaving it from a sense because you're going to have offers flooding in from like the Middle East. And do you remember one? I can't remember what fight it was. It might have been for when they were first touting Joshua Fury seriously, and they were talking about some geezer wanted it on his yacht. Do you know what I mean? Like people are going.
I think that was Fury Wilder. Yeah,
Fury Wilder, that's the one. Yeah.
Or Fury
when you leave the venue,
maybe.
Fury, one of those two. But when you leave the venue till late, people are going to have to up the offers. Offers are going to be flying in for double the money we want it. It's all going to be happening so quick. So I get the meaning behind that. I get the understanding there.
I think with the venue, the way actually, I know there was a lot spoken about. It's not going to be in Britain to start off with. Obviously, us as fight fans want it to be, but maybe the way we're looking at the moment with a vaccine and stuff like that, maybe the fact that it is taking a bit longer is sort of good news for us, that maybe there will be fans back in stadiums. Because let's have it right, we all want that fight in Britain, don't we?
Yeah, certainly one of them for sure. It's got
absolutely,
to be for me.
Absolutely. But I think we're just sort of, we're almost, the way it's sort of going, it's looking sort of good that, you know, COVID's sort of slowing down in Britain. Is it sort of looking towards that? They're going to announce it here because it's looking sort of, you know, positive with sort of the COVID rates and stuff. But no, I mean, like Oscar said, and we just can't wait for the poster to come out and it to be announced.
Who wins though, James? Come on.
He's put me on the spot there, and he has put me on the spot. Do you know what? I'm not just saying it. People say, "Oh, you're a Joshua fanboy." I'm not. I honestly think that loss after Ruiz, I think he learned so much from that. And obviously, looking at going back to the weekend with the Warrington loss, and you look at him FaceTiming Josh, and you know them talking about both of their losses and stuff like that. I think Joshua's matured a lot, and I think he's learned a lot from that Ruiz fight. I think Pulev was a huge sort of stepping block for him as well. I'm not saying it was a test, because, you know, I'm not saying Pulev was what he was, but it was a test, and I thought he dealt with it well. Obviously, a lot of people said after the fight, well, he should have ended it straight away, but he tried to do that against Ruiz, and look what happened. So, you know,
it should have been stopped, really, shouldn't it? To be honest, Pulev was.
Yeah, I mean, anyway. You know, but I'm not gonna. I don't know. I want to say Joshua win. Basically, I'm not gonna say how. I'm not gonna say when. But I'll go Joshua win. Now, go on. You got to answer it now. Who's your man?
Well, yeah. I mean, first of all, I like both of them. I hate this narrative in the UK we got at the moment where you've got to be Fury, you've got to be Joshua. I think there's way too much of that. It's really like polarized. I just hate it. But for me, it's Fury. I just think, versatility wise, I think he's got both aspects to his game. He can punch, he can box, and he showed it. You know, he showed it in Wilder 1 and then Wilder 2. But I think, in terms of punches in bunches in the heavyweight division, for me, I think Josh is probably the best in the world. So if that's a fire fest and it gets close, I could see Joshua knocking him out. But just for me, I don't know. I find it hard to look past Fury. I think he can beat the whole division. I really do. That's just me, but I can understand why
I wasn't going to ask for a prediction from Oscar, but come on, give us a little one. What do you reckon, Oscar?
I'm not going to say who's going to win. I'm not going to give any sort of prediction. I can't. I'm not going to. But do you know what? It's interesting what you say, James, actually, the springboard that Josh has got after his loss, because Fury might have had times outside the ring that he would perhaps compare mentally to facing some form of loss, but a loss in the professional boxing ring. He hasn't got that springboard, and I don't know what advantage that would give Joshua. I imagine some. But I suppose you can look at it, and there's a reason Fury's not wide favourite, but would be edging the favourite talk, is because if you put Fury against any other heavyweight that's not Anthony Joshua, I think he's a clear favourite. If you put Joshua against every other heavyweight, there's a couple that you'd say are 50-50. So I think just on the basis of that, he's probably the reasoning why Fury will be bookies' favourite amongst the experts and stuff. But yeah, mate, you ain't getting a prediction from me. You can stick that way. The sun don't shine, boy.
What? Not even fight week? If you're on fight week, I'm going to ring you up every day and say, listen, prediction, I want it now. I want it. I want a prediction.
You can have my prediction when the final bell goes.
No, I'm not having that. No.
And it will be the same as the outcome.
No, I'm not having that. I'm going to ring you every day on Fight Week and say, I want a prediction now.
Well, I'm going to block your number. So.
But no, listen, I think, boys, we just all got to agree with that. We just can't wait for it to be announced and can't wait to see it.
Yeah, so good.
Going back to what Ben said at the start, I want to talk about a few sort of heavyweights that are, under the radar, not as sort of. I think first one I want to start with is what we said, Andy Ruiz. Haven't seen a lot of him since the Joshua rematch. I think I don't want to say too much, but I think he obviously went into that fight not looking the best. I'm not going to, he done so well in the first fight, but yeah, why do you think we sort of haven't heard a lot from him sort of to start off with? What do you reckon, Ben?
Well, he's with Eddie Reynoso now, isn't he? So I think, no one should be sleeping on him because he'll come back really good. But I think, he's just been rebuilding, probably enjoying his money a little bit, to be honest, which I think we all would if you're in his position for sure. So, all I can do is hope that he gets back in and hopefully, maybe Wilder, something like that. I think that's a fight that really excites me.
It'd be a great fight, wouldn't it? That'd be a great fight. Oscar, what do you reckon? Andy Ruiz, when are we going to see him?
Well, it was nice to see him in the back of a Canelo video the other day, just sort of lightly hitting the bag, and he looks slim. And it's weird with Ruiz because he looks slim, and then a couple of months later, he looks like he's put it on again, and then he looks slim again. So I don't know how serious he's been taking these comebacks. But I think the interesting thing with Ruiz is because his style at the top level, you look at the top 15 heavyweights, it's such a one-off style. Like there's not more than one Andy Ruiz. Like for me, Usyk and Joyce have got fairly similar-ish styles. I know there's movement differences, but like I'd say fundamentally there's similarities. Whereas with Ruiz, I don't think anyone's got any similarities, which makes him like one of the most entertaining heavyweights in matchups. Like we're talking Wilder, we're talking winner of Usyk, Joyce, and them sort of ones, Michael Hunter. Like he is one of the most interesting when you think about him in with them. So look, fingers crossed it happens again. Maybe it's because I've been like, if you like boxing, it's the same thing. And until you see posters, you can't say anything like. But I don't know how serious he's taking the comeback. But if he takes it serious, he's a contender. Like, why would he not be?
Yeah, of course. I mean,
he can bang a bit. So, what?
Absolutely. Well, that Joshua win he had, I don't think your sort of casual fight fan probably thought, Andy Ruiz, like everyone thought. Who is this sort of, fat Mexican? No offense to him, but that's what people thought. But no, I completely agree. I think his style, even in the second fight, when he wasn't in probably the best condition, I think he still troubled Joshua in that second fight. I think I completely agree. I think his style is very, his own. I completely agree. I don't think there's any other fighter in the heavyweight division that is like that. I think a lot of them, can move, but he's, I think if he can get in a condition and he gets a very good run, I think he's got all the skill sets to be a huge contender. And I think, like you said, I think we just need to see how serious he is about his comeback and hopefully see him in some big fights this year because, we want to see him, was he just a one fight man? Was that it for him? Was he happy with that for the rest of his life? Or are we going to see him go on another run?
Do you know what he's banging though? Like, as much as we love a 6'7" heavyweight who can smash the fuck out of people and land on someone's chin and they're going to go straight to the canvas, there's something about heavyweight who's a little bit smaller and all right, not stocky, all right, he's got a bit of timber, but there's something about a heavyweight that, just verges around that 6 foot height. It's so interesting. Like, I don't know what it is.
I think another one, probably going to that is probably Martin McCauley. He's another one. Sort of, I don't think he's, like you said, he's not the 6'7" heavyweight who's, I think he's probably another one. But no, I just think we need to see him back. I think we need to see what he's got again and see him on a good run.
I think he'll come back. Sorry, mate. I think he'll come back a lot better though. Like I think Reynoso's work, having seen the work he did with obviously Canelo, but the work he did with Ryan Garcia, I just think don't sleep on him because I think he'll come back a lot better. That's my take on it anyway.
Definitely. Next one we got to talk about Deontay Wilder. what a few months / weeks he's been having with his interviews and opinions and his Mark Breland saga. When are we going to see him back, do you reckon, boys? Ben?
I want to say hopefully never, but just sick of him. But hopefully like I said earlier, if you see him in there with someone like White or Ruiz or I don't know, Michael Hunter or something, it'd be nice to see him like sort of box someone in that like ring top 10 below, the top 3 or 4 to get back on the horse and keep going. But I think he's always dangerous. He's definitely possesses one punch power like I've never seen before, and most people have never seen before. So he's always going to be dangerous. But I don't know, it just winds me up too much, mate. I don't know about you.
Yeah, he comes out with some wacky things. Wacky's the word I use because I don't even want to get into some of the stuff he's come out with. But that fight after that Fury second fight, some of the things were just honestly, you read them and you were like,
they were rogue to say the least. They were rogue.
I just wonder if they just come from like a hat. I wonder if you put all these ideas in a hat. I thought, right, what one are we going to tweak today? Heavy suit walking into the ring. There we go.
I think he lost the plot, mate. I think he just lost the plot. I think that's the only explanation you can have for it. Just some of the stuff was like, I thought it was clickbait, do you know what I mean? Kept reading this stuff, just like no way.
Weird. It was just weird.
What grinds my gears about it, and I'll openly say that some of the things Wilder has said has been scandalous, by the way. And you look at the way a loss should be dealt with, and the team mentality and spirit you're meant to keep after. But it's more the fact the outlets that he's done it with, like they're not outlets willing to challenge and question him. Like they're very small time outlets. Nothing wrong with that. You started your own podcast here, James. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with outlets who ain't hitting 100 million views every video, but he's doing it with people who ain't willing to look at him and go, look, are you taking the piss, sort of? Don't want to be challenged on it. Do you know what I mean? It's why he's not doing anything mainstream. He's just sitting back and doing it with these American channels with a couple of thousand subscribers who almost being a bit arse-licky towards him. They don't want to look at him and just say, come on, what's happening?
What waffle are you coming out with or something like that? No, I completely
I feel sorry for Breland probably apart from anything else because, from what I've seen of him, seems like a nice enough guy, bit of a legend really in the game if you think about it, the stuff he did in America. I don't know, it's just so frustrating for me personally. But
I think probably the only thing with him is, and I know we've all there's loads of people in the world that are like it, but maybe I don't know, you look at something like his upbringing and stuff like that. Was he the most educated person, growing up and stuff like this? Because like sort of we said, he comes out with some very uneducated bits.
But James, that's the other thing as well. Like, if you look at his life and why he came to boxing and the story of how, with his daughter, I really want to like him. And like, I did like him for a long time in a way. And then like, just after this second fight, I don't know. Yeah.
No, I agree with that. I think it's mad. It's mad how it can change because I think, although obviously Joshua was, when the Wilder Joshua talks are ongoing and stuff like that, a lot of people sat there and thought, well, does Joshua want to fight Wilder? A lot of people were on the sort of Wilder train thinking Wilder will beat him and stuff like this. Not saying that, that still can't happen. But I think a lot of people thought Wilder was talking a lot of sense in the fact of he was saying that, Joshua was turning down deals and stuff like this. But it's mad how it can change. For me now, my opinion, was that all nonsense? Like, that's what it seems like to me. Did it seem like he was just saying that for the sake of saying it?
Well, he exposed himself, didn't he, Wilder? Because what?
Definitely. Obviously, I think I agree. It'd be great to see him in a fight like him against Ruiz because I think one thing about boxing at the moment, obviously with COVID and stuff, I think I do completely agree with what the promoters have been saying. There's been some great 50-50 fights. Fights that maybe fighters wouldn't have taken if there wasn't a global pandemic. So I think a fight like that, if anything, is probably more than likely to happen than ever because I think it's a fight that probably makes sense for the both of them. They're both coming back from losses. They're both probably coming back from a sort of a bit of a tough time and stuff like that. So it's probably a fight that makes sense for both of them. And really put them on a path, like we said, to sort of contend for those sort of, for those titles. Any sort of other heavyweights you want to talk about, boys? Any sort of ones to watch?
Usyk. I mean, yeah, Usyk would be the other one. I think, yeah, don't sleep on him either, because he's brilliant. Good technician, good shot selection, etc., etc. List goes on. I think he can beat. He's like capable of beating anyone on his day for sure.
What do you think about that Chisora fight, though? Do you think some of the stories that came out after that was true? Do you think probably the power's not there and stuff like that? Do you think that will affect him or not?
But does it have to be? Do you know what I mean?
No, I don't think it does. But I'm just thinking. Again, I know Oscar said it earlier. It's a stupid cliche, but it makes sense. One punch in the heavyweight division can change. So I don't know. I just feel like, will he have that? And again, I know it's a cliche, and I know, we enjoy watching boxing because we're not just watching it to see a mad knockout. We want to see, good fighters. But it's just something for me where I do think the power will affect him.
Well, let's put it this way: like, you're not going to outbox him, or at least that's how I see it.
No.
But yeah, like you say, when it gets close and stuff, and later rounds when he starts to tie, yeah, I mean, he could get knocked out. But like you say, that's heavyweight boxing.
Punch power is a get out clause, isn't it? Like, it is a get out clause, but it's not just a get out clause. Wilder's used it as a get out clause. You look at the first fight with Luis Ortiz. It's not just a get out clause though. Like, sustained punch power. I mean, Joe Joyce and Daniel Dubois are a prime example. Daniel's got the punch power that could have got him out of that fight. Joe Joyce has the sustained punch power that's won him that fight. So even if Usyk lacks that little 1%, and by the way, he's hitting Dell, who's basically a brick wall, by the way. Knocking Dell out to feet. Do you know what I mean? I know Dick did it fairly recently, but in his older age, Dell's just become like a brick wall. So, but if he does lack that 1 or 2%, then I can't see him making it as well. I don't know, say as a world champion, because belts can be relinquished and this and that can happen, but I can't see him making it as what we would call a top tier elite heavyweight and going down as an elite heavyweight if he does lack that 1%.
No, definitely. I think quickly, just boys, one I want to quickly talk about as well is Joe Joyce. I think we got us massively applauding for that Daniel Dubois win. For me, before that fight, the odds were against him so much. No one expected him to do what he did. What a fight and what a performance.
Won it with the jab, didn't he? That's it.
Well, it was the 2 weeks, wasn't it? It was the Joyce, and then it was Lindenau for the week after. It was literally, they both
showcasing of the jab. Yeah.
That's it. But no, what a performance! Honestly, I think, he has really propelled himself up, and I honestly think he deserves that Usyk fight. I think before that Daniel Dubois fight, no one even mentioned him at the top of the division, and just look what that one win has done to him. I think he totally deserves to be spoken about, in that sort of contender sort of bracket.
Well, he had to be moved quickly, and he has been moved quickly, and he's ended up with potential interim, and he could be world champion in 80 months. I know we're saying about cliches and that, but it's right hand takes you around the block, jab will take you around the world. That's what it is, isn't it? And it's the spite behind the jab as well, like to cause that injury. And injuries are weird because it's not that Daniel's got a weak eye. The punch has to hit you prime in one place, and that's the sort of thing that happens. You know what I mean? But it's just the intensity and spite behind his jab. Like, could be the best jab bar Fury in the heavyweight division. So
he's also really durable, isn't he? He's really durable. He's got a good shin.
I've heard a lot of stories about trainers saying that he's like durable, like can last forever. They almost sort of think in sort of round sense. He's got the sort of, the stamina and the fitness to just go on. And I think we saw that. And I think what you just said there, Oscar, as well, it's that sustained sort of power in the sense of, how do I explain it? What you said, it was that accuracy of he kept hitting him in that place in the eye. Like you said, I don't think it was Daniel had a weak eye. I just think it was the fact he kept hitting him with a jab in that same place where it worked. And I think it's that another cliche of, why change something that's going right? What's the point?
Well, look, you can train punch resistance, but you can't change you can't train for your retina to not detach from the back of your eye. Do you know what I mean? So, and let's be honest, though, if we're thinking about it, and fingers crossed I'm there, but if not, can you imagine with this chin that Joyce has got as well, sitting back on a Saturday night with a beer and watching Usyk throw the kitchen sink at Joyce? Come on, fucking hell.
Yeah.
It sounded like Eddie Earn there.
I'm trying, but it'd be the nuts, wouldn't it? And oh, mate, what a fight that is!
Yeah,
so exciting.
That's huge.
Definitely. Oscar, any heavyweights you want to talk about?
None in particular. Not on the world scene anyway. I think and I'm probably going to think after this who have I missed out, but I think we've spoken about the main men, yeah. And yeah, I'm glad we got to cover it a little bit on Usyk Joyce because I just think that's mouthwatering.
It is. No, definitely. And like I said before, I think it's a fight that no one spoke about before the Dubois fight because Joyce wasn't sure if Joyce was at that level. And I'm not saying that the Dubois fight completely shows he's at that level, but he has showed that, you know, he's got the skill set to contend at that level at least. So yeah. No, I think a tastier heavyweight boxing, I think. And obviously we all enjoy the cards with heavyweight fights on because we know there's going to be, you know, there's more than likely going to be a knockout. I know, again, you know, we don't all watch boxing for knockouts, but it adds a bit of entertainment, doesn't it? Let's have it right.
Don't mind seeing a bit of blood spilled, do you?
Oh, exactly. I mean, the weekend, you know, we could talk about the weekend and say that how much of a shock that was, and you know how amazing it was to see Josh Warrington get knocked out because, you know, who ever thought that could happen? So, talking about Josh Warrington, next topic, boys, British boxing. The reason I wanted to talk about this is because I feel like, and I was talking to Ben about this the other day actually, I feel like this is probably, and obviously I don't want to go back too far and stuff like that, but this is probably one of the best times for British boxing, and in a sense of, you know, British title winner, or world title winners from Britain. You know, I think you look at you go through the divisions, and I think that really could be sort of taken over by British fighters. Yeah, I mean, I just think what a great time, you know, what a great time for British boxing for me.
I think
Ben, what do you reckon? Oh, sorry.
Go on, Ben.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Josh Taylor Ramirez, hopefully. You've got Williams, Andrade. Like we said, Fury, Joshua, Coley's jumping in for a world title. There's loads of other guys like Billy Joe knocking about that could have big title fights coming up. Obviously, we got off to a bit of a bad start, didn't we, with Warrington losing, but
yeah,
it's part of it. I mean, you know, I'm super excited. So many good names, and yeah, looking forward to it.
No, definitely.
Yeah, I can't reel off the bat how many world champions we got now, but I know that it's dropped. I think at one point we hit the heights a couple of years ago of 13, which sounds ridiculous because I think Quigg had a belt, Frampton had a belt, obviously. We had a couple of lads who were knocking about in middleweights and knocking about with IBFs, WBOs and that. But I think now the fact that we've got a unified in Josh Taylor, a unified in Anthony Joshua, the size and the magnitude of the fighters involved is bigger than it's ever been, which is obviously a positive. And yeah, this could either be the best or the worst year for British boxing because we could swerve Joshua Fury, Ramirez could beat Taylor, we could have a Western, everything could go wrong, or it could be the best. So we're in a good place, I think, and to be the home and heavyweight division, which has obviously been ruled by the States for so long, there's a bit of a sweetness to that when you're getting into an argument with an American on Twitter and you can tell them where the belts are. So happy days.
Yeah, I do that a fair bit.
No, definitely. I think, yeah, knowing my luck, now I've said it, it'll probably be, you know, I don't want to say it, but it'll probably be a terrible year for British boxing. But I just think, you know, the fact that so many British fighters have propelled themselves up to give themselves world title shots. I think to start off with, we've probably got to talk about Taylor Ramirez. I mean, what an opportunity for Josh Taylor, but not an opportunity. I think he goes into that fight, you know, if anything, as completely the favourite for me. I think he's
favourite.
He's looked, if you know, amazing throughout his sort of, you know, time as world champion and stuff. And you know, I think that that Prograis fight, he looked just, he looked like he had it all in that fight. He looked like he had the boxing ability in that. Yeah, I mean, you know, he was taking some punishment in that fight as well, and he just sort of brushed it off, you know, and sort of thought, no, I'm not gonna let this get on to me. I'm gonna dig my heels in and win this title. And yeah, I think he goes into that fight as a clear favourite. But what a fight it'll be. Let's have another thing. I'm trying to think who else we said. Actually, yeah, definitely. Andrade Williams. What a good fight I think that will be. Haven't seen Andrade for a while now. I'm trying to think, when was his last fight? Was it Kelleher? Or did he have another one after that?
Luke Healer last Jan. Yeah, end of Jan last year, yeah.
So, you know, Williams looks, and again, I know he was, you know, fighting a sort of a British sort of level opponent, but I honestly thought his last fight was just amazing to watch almost. The fact he sort of put his glove on his head and went, oh, bit of blood, I better not have this, and just completely turned it on. I mean, he's
got a lot of spite. I love watching him. He's got so much spite.
I think that will massively help him in that Andrade fight as well.
Well, I think it will help because, sorry, I just got a notification. That's a bit rude. Yeah, I think it will help because, you know, let's be honest, Andrade on the back foot's awkward. He's horrible, and he ain't the most entertaining to watch. I think he knows that, but if he's going to beat Liam Williams, he's going to have to be a tiny bit ugly, a tiny bit boring, perhaps trot through the rounds, pick up some 10-9s, skirt through the middle rounds a bit, and, you know, it looks like it could come down to Liam just having to stick it on him. And if he does, you know, he's going to put his bollocks on the line and go full metal. And that's the sort of thing
could be a war. Could be a war.
Yeah, and it could turn out to be a tear up. And I don't know if that's what Andrade wants. But if he's game for a tear up as well, it could. Yeah, it's weird. I can't picture them stylistically in the ring. I just don't see how it.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
You can't picture him engaging, like how it works. It's weird, but yeah, that's a blinder. And he's got a good chance. He's got a great chance.
Definitely.
He had a weird old interview the other day with Umar on IFL. Andrade. Did you see that, James? The one on IFL.
I can't. Must have seen it. Watched them all.
Yes. He seems like he feels like he's got a bit to prove, Andrade. So I would say, yeah, I don't know. I think Andrade. No, go on.
I think that's a good thing. I think that's because I think he could probably sit there and go, well, no, I'm world champion. What have I got to prove? So I think the fact he does sort of think I've got something to prove, I think is almost a good thing for him. You know what? For me, again, it could just be him sitting there going, well, no, you know, I won't take the Williams fight. Stuff like this. He could just sit there and think, no, I'm fine. I'm world champion. What have I got to prove? So I think the fact I think he's doing a good thing. Well, I know it's obviously been ordered, but I think the fact he has gone through with this fight, because if anything, he might have, you know, he could have looked to move up or sort of, you know, change the sort of career path he was on. But I think the fact he has taken this, I think, will be a good test for him, and I think we'll see sort of, you know, what level he is massively at, because I do think he's got something to prove, and the fact he can be honest and sit there and say, I've got something to prove, is a massive thing. But no, what a great fight it will be, and I look forward to it, definitely.
I think he's struggling a little bit to come to terms with the fact that in the States, a win over Liam Williams ain't really got much behind it. I know a couple of people said this as well. Like, over here, we're licking our lips. Over in the States, they're probably going, oh, bloody another mandatory. You're having a laugh, another geezer from Britain, because we've had a few that have gone over there and got beat. Oh, another geezer from Britain's going to go over there and roll over, you know, get his paycheck. But I think he's almost trying to convince everyone else, and he'll know how good Liam Williams is. He's not a mug. He'll have watched him and he'll have studied him. I think he's almost trying to convince everyone else how much, because I don't think he was on board at first, but I think now he's trying to convince everyone how much of a good win this would be, because we know. But I think in the States, like I said, I don't think there's much meat behind a win like that yet. But it's all about performance, isn't it? If he performs regardless of the opponent, I suppose he'll get some due. So,
no, that's it. Definitely. I think one we got to talk about as well. Again, I know it hasn't been announced yet, but Canelo Saunders. What an absolute, and that, you know, what a just amazing fight that will be when it's hopefully announced. I know.
It's the only one I put my neck on the line for. It's the only one I put my neck on the line for with a prediction.
Oh, right, we've got to hear it then. Come on.
It's the only one I put my neck on the line for. I think Billy's the only man that can beat him. I honestly do.
I completely agree.
Yeah, me and Ben have spoken about this. Wow, definitely.
It's not that I don't think anyone I don't think Callum Smith could have beaten him, because Callum on his day could have beaten Canelo. Would Canelo may have had to drop the level a touch, possibly. But there's something about the best Billy Joe that exudes a confidence that I think can beat Canelo, can take the piss out of him, can draw him into things he don't want to do in the ring as well. And, maybe there's a touch of bias overriding it as well with me saying that. But I'd put my neck on the line and say that Bill's a man
Oscar,
if anyone's going to beat Canelo.
Stylistically, what do you think Billy needs to do in that fight? Like, do you think there's a certain style he needs to employ, or do you think he just boxes how he usually does? Is there any specifics?
Sticking to what he normally does as the fundamental, but I think he's almost got to leave himself there for the taking a little bit, like he done against Lemieux. Put your chin on the line, leave yourself there for the taking, and then show him you're fast, show him you're slick. Do you know what I mean? Because if you cruise through a couple of rounds against Canelo, next thing you know, you're 4-0 down and you've got to stop the geezer. Bill ain't going to stop him. So don't cruise, but box how you box normally and how you know how to box, and almost leave yourself a little bit exposed. Let Canelo try and find gaps, because otherwise he will cruise through rounds, and like I said, you'll be 5-0 down and that's it, you've blown your chance.
I do worry a bit though in America. Sorry, James. Just in America, the way Canelo like cuts off the ring and comes forward and likes to walk people down. I just worry a little bit on the cards, whether if the way Billy's going to box, he would get the decision in America. That would be my only slight worry. But I think he's definitely got the attributes to do it.
I think go into that quickly, what Oscar said there with the Lemieux fight. Now, again, I'm not going to compare, saying Lemieux's on Canelo's level, because I know I'm going to stick it in my head on the line here, but I think Canelo is pound for pound probably the best in the world. But I completely agree in the sense, I think he's almost got to go there and just try and take the piss out of Canelo. I know that sounds so weird and stupid, but I think if he goes there and fights like when he did it against Lemieux, I think he's got to make Canelo complacent. Because I don't think if you're gonna, like Oscar said, if you're just gonna cruise through and just think you can have a sort of an easy win on the night on points, simple, that's not going to work for me. That's not going to happen. So I think he's almost got to go there and I know this again, it's a bit of a term, but he's almost got to shit house himself through to win. I think he's got to go there and just wind Canelo up, wind him up on fight week, wind him up on fight, and just do little things to give him an advantage. Because I think he has the skill set anyway, but I just think if he does these little things, and I honestly think no one's tried to get under Canelo's skin yet. For me, I've never seen on a fight week someone get under Canelo's skin, and I think Billy's got to try and do that. I know. No one's got to tell him that, because Billy's Billy, and we know he's what he's got up to in the past. But I think he's got to do little things like that. And I know we're sort of not talking about the boxing side, but I think we all know he's got the skill set, don't we? Let's have it right. So I think he's just got to do those little things to sort of get under his skin.
I think we're lucky that we live in, and we saw it with the first Fury Wilder fight, we're living in that social media age where if you do get shafted, people know it. And with Eddie being involved with Billy and Canelo, I feel like if he was to get overly shafted, I know we're looking well into the future, he could go over there and get chinned. I don't think he will, but he could. But if we're looking into the future, if he did get shafted on the cards, we're in that age where people will talk about it so much that you'll almost get your other opportunity off the back of public demand. And Canelo's, we saw it with Kovalev. People thought he lost to Kovalev. Point to prove, he goes and does it. So I think as long as Bill can hold his own in the first fight and put, like I said, put his chin on the line, put himself on the line and do what he does best and come away with what we believe is a win or some credibility, then he'll get a second chance. I know that sounds ridiculous. You shouldn't need 2 chances to beat him, but you ain't going to get away with getting shafted anymore. It's 2021. People will let you know about it. So,
well, you've only got to look again at the weekend of Alpha Barrett. I mean, I agree with what I was listening to Eddie, what he said today. I felt a bit sorry for him almost. You know, he sort of, I don't know, you know, the win was completely underlined by the facts of the scorecards. And I think, you know, I take my hat off to you, Oscar, actually. You know, the interview after the fight, I thought was, honestly, when I spoke to you and we spoke about doing this tonight, I felt like the way you said it to Eddie was from your heart almost, if you know what I mean. It wasn't the fact of you just said, oh, well, it was, you know, what about them judges again? You sort of, there was a bit of passion towards it. And I completely agree. I think the fact that, yeah, if he went over there and he got shafted, I think too many people would talk about it, like you said, for him not to get a second chance.
Yeah, this ain't a low-key mandatory. This is, we're talking about Canelo. Nothing's low-key, yeah. So I think too many people would talk about it for it to go under the radar.
Absolutely. Next one I want to talk about, British boxing, boys, is actually a division. We'll talk about a couple of fights. And me and Ben were speaking about this just before we started. Light heavyweight. Obviously, news today, Callum Johnson signing with Queensberry. But, Jesus Christ, there is some tasty fights in that light heavyweight division as well. Like we said, Callum Johnson, Lyndon Arthur, what an upset that was against Anthony Yard. And like we said earlier, it was the jab winning the fight. You know, people were saying he had a hand injury.
Yeah, I rate
like
him so highly. I've got to say, I don't want to put my neck too much on the line, but I do rate him. So I think he can go all the way. I really do. He impressed me so much in that fight with Yard.
Well, definitely. I think he showed that, didn't he? He showed that he's got the skill set to, you know, to beat
Buatsi as well.
I mean, he just looks. I honestly think he just looks unstoppable. Like, for me, Kalic was probably such a huge test for him, and he just seemed like he dealt with, not with ease, but he just seemed like it was, you know, it was tough, but then he just seemed like he just came through it. He sort of came through it with ease. I'm not saying he did it with ease, because there was tough moments in the fight for him, and I think he said it after. He said, "I've learned from this fight," and I know this is a sort of another one that a lot of people say. He learned from that fight more than he's ever done, because there was tough moments in the fight. But for me, the way he got through it, he looked like he'd done bits with ease, and I think it just does look easy for him at times. So yeah, who else we got? I think we said at the start, Callum Johnson, someone that's probably not spoken about enough, and I think this probably this move to Queensberry will help him a lot. I don't know what you boys think.
You'd hope so. It seems like he's disappeared off the scene since that defeat to Viterbi, so you'd hope so. That's all I can say. We want to see him back in the scene. He's a nuisance and he can bang. So I'd be mad not to want to see him back.
Definitely.
I think just with a change of trainer as well for Yard, that'll be good for him. I think, I don't know. Do we know who he's going with now? I don't. Anthony Yard.
Was it confirmed he'd left the JE though? I don't know. Was it? There's something about.
I mean, he's put subtle hints out. But
yeah, that's yeah.
I mean, yeah, he's a loyal man, Anthony, and I know some people say too loyal for his own good. It ain't my place to comment on what works for him and what don't. But yeah, he's put hints out. I wouldn't believe anything as of yet. But yeah, I don't know. I'll draw a line under that. I won't say any more.
That fight. But I look at that fight with Arthur, and I felt he'd gone through a lot, sort of the year before. With what was it?
There was just a lack of urgency for me in the corner that night.
I don't think he was all there for that fight. I think he needed a bit of a break. I mean, he had obviously the two terrible bits of news last year with his family and stuff, and I just probably think he went into that fight probably not in the greatest frame of mind, which is totally understandable. You know, I don't care what anyone says, whether their life's devoted to boxing or not. Family comes first, and I think that sort of. I'm not saying it had a huge, massive sort of, you know, reason behind why he lost, but I probably think he just sort of went into that fight not in the greatest frame of mind.
Yeah, I think Lyndon was absolutely brilliant as well. Like, you know, a lot of people, you see it a lot in boxing, just, you know, they jump straight on his back and online. But, you know, you can't forget Lyndon was brilliant that night.
He was excellent. He was excellent. And I think going to the weekend, and I obviously spoke to you, Oscar, and you said what a lovely fellow he was. Pat Barrett, I think, trained him through that fight unbelievably.
He marched to it like Lyndon marched to his orders. It was almost like there was a robot in there that Pat was controlling. I know that's not taking anything away from Lyndon, because he has to still put it on, like he has to still do his thing, but and you know, Pat isn't controlling every single move and telling him when to throw every single punch and when to step here and slide here. But yeah, he just marched to the orders so perfectly, and their little setup is, I think it's because it's so confined, the fact that professionally it's Pat, it's Zelfa, it's Lyndon, and there's a couple of other boys in there. It's not massive. It's not very. It's quite low key as well. I think they've got a nice tight knit, and they seem like the sort of people who, well, not every fighter and trainer combination can pull a performance like that. But just the way he marched, it was just, yeah.
No,
After what we've heard recently about certain people and certain trainers and people not standing by their trainers, to see someone stick to an exact game plan that their trainer had set out and it come off was, yeah, it was quite nice to see, actually.
Definitely. I'm just trying to think of some other boys in the light heavyweight division.
Craig Richards.
Yeah, good win. Coming off a good win.
It's a great win. And I've read a few things today that it looks like he's linked to a fight with Dimitri Bivol. But I mean, it just shows how one win can just... Did you? I'm pretty sure I read it today.
Yeah.
So, you know, it just shows how one win can just project you up there. I mean, what an opportunity that will be. I know, when was it? I think, who did he lose to a couple of years ago? Was it?
He had a draw at York Hall, didn't he? But he lost to Buglioni before that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people then said, oh, well, great, you know. But, I mean, what a win. And like I just said, what a sort of way he's projecting himself into a world title fight. I mean, that's just...
Good for him as well, you know. Clearly works hard. He spoke excellently, I thought, after that win over Pitters. So it's good to see him doing well and getting up and involved.
And that was a great interview. Or I don't know if it was the interview or the picture of, I think he slept in bed that night with the title, didn't he? Thought that was brilliant. That's just one of them ones that you laugh at seeing. But no, what a great sort of win, and what a great projection for him.
You ask anyone as well. Ask anyone who's sparred. Just quickly, James. Ask anyone who's sparred with Craig Richards, and they will tell you he bangs like he bangs.
For his size, man. Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, like, I'm not saying he's going to go over there and wipe the floor with Dimitri Bivol, but at some point you've got to have your coming out fight, your breaking out fight. I think people knew he had the potential and he had skill set to beat Shakan Pitters. Not that it weren't 50-50. I think edging towards Craig, most people, but you know, at some point you've got to have your real breakout and you've got to cause an upset and burst yourself on the scene. So as much as Dimitri will be a massive odds favourite, when Craig plants his feet and throws that right hand, it can do damage.
Anything can happen. Yeah,
absolutely.
I agree.
Absolutely. Just going around those divisions as well. The reason I wanted to talk about British boxing for me is because there is just so many names you could talk about, and so many names for me that are going on that world level scene. And quickly, one I want to talk about that's up and coming is Akoli Glowacki. And for me, the rise of Lawrence Akoli has just been amazing. What a deserved sort of fight for him, and you know what an amazing story it is. I know he always says it, but it's just, for me, it's amazing working in McDonald's to now world title contender. How do you think he sort of gets on in that? I mean, what's your sort of boys' prediction for that one?
I think, like, stylistically, Glowacki's, if you watch his fight with who is it? God, forgetting names. What's his name? Where he got KO'd and like he threw a load of punches after the bell. I'm just trying to. I've completely.
In the Super Series.
Yeah, but I can't remember who was he boxing that night.
Dorticus.
But anyway, I just feel like he's so awkward and he throws like looping shots from like weird angles. I just think if Akoli stays disciplined, then I can see him, you know, making an easy night's work of it, keeping it long. But I just think, like Glowacki, man, he's an awkward operator for me. So you just have to be very careful. But I think if there was a fight in that division that Akoli could win, I think, Glowacki's a good opponent for me.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, no, that fight, with it weren't Dorticus. I can't think who it was now.
Maris Breedis.
Maris Breedis, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Breedis is a special fighter. Do you know what I mean? And stylistically so different to Lawrence. And to be honest, you'd put more money on Lawrence knocking out Glowacki than you would on Breedis. And Breedis is an absolute animal. So don't get me wrong, Lawrence will be looking to land rangy, horrible. And I know people give him a bit of shit about, he likes to hug, he likes to clinch, but I don't know if we're looking at a fighter that's almost making himself impossible to beat.
That's what
so if he gets
about,
his hands on that world title, is anyone going to take it off him? I don't think they are. Yeah, that's what it's about. Yeah.
I think he's almost shown us, like I said at the start, he's almost shown us a story of he's come from nothing. And like you just said there, I think if he wins a title, he ain't going to let no one take it away from him. There is no way he's not going to go do what sort of an Andy Ruiz did, where he's going to go and win the title and think, oh, right, well, that's it. I've had me sort of night of fame. What more do I need to worry about? I think, if he wins that fight, I think he's, like you said, he'll be very, very, very hard to beat. It'll be very hard to dethrone because I don't think he's just going to sort of have his night of fame and that'll do him. He wants to write himself, in the sort of, the Hall of Fame of fighters, because he's, like I said, for me, it's just such a great story to hear that he's come from nothing and, he's now fighting for a world title. Just brilliant. Just going to a couple of others, because we've got one more to talk about. Quickly, obviously, this weekend, Josh Kelly, a lot of people have been saying it, the cursed fight. What a great fight that'll be. And again, another great division. And I think that's, again, what I said. That's why I wanted to talk about British boxing, because we've got so many great divisions. You've got, Josh Kelly, Conor Benn. There's so many fighters in that division. I think there's a lot of people sort of thinking, well, Josh Kelly's this world-class, unbelievable boxer who can't be beat. But he's got to be careful for David Allen Neeson this week, because he's not going to just sort of,
This is definitely the breakthrough fight, I think. This is the one where he announces himself onto the world scene for me. It's a must-win in that respect.
Yeah, I mean, you and Darren Barker said this earlier, actually, so just sort of repeating what he said. This is where you find out if Josh Kelly is the real deal, or you find out if he's a gym fighter. It's easy to sit there and go, this is how he looks in the gym. And I know Michael Collins throwing his wallet about saying, I'll give $1,000 to charity if Josh loses, and he looks at bollocks behind closed doors and that. But as soon as you step in the ring and David hits you, because people say, like, people who sparred David again, sparring, but they say he hits hard. This is where we're going to find out, one, how much you want it, two, how much you've learned, because he's had a couple of performances that he wouldn't have been happy with and Booth wouldn't have been happy with either. But like you say, this is where we find out if Josh Kelly's what us as Brits hope he is. Fingers crossed, man. Fuck me, fingers crossed.
Yeah, I think obviously we're all rooting for him. So, and I think the reason we're rooting for him as well, because we want to see another British sort of, mega fight with him.
Big fight down the line, yeah.
Conor Benn will just be what a great fight that'll be. And again, I want to talk about Conor Benn actually. I mean, that fight for me, just after the fight as well, he just seemed so like relaxed. Like he honestly seemed like he'd just come out of the gym and it was just like it was a spar for him. And I know he said that. He said that I've had harder spars than that, but it honestly seemed like it was just so easy for him.
He takes after his Dalla thing the respect that he just loves to fight. Like you can just see it. He absolutely loves to tear up.
He does.
And that'll serve him well, I think, down the line.
No, 100%. 100%.
Anyone who enjoys putting the work in the gym as well. Like as much as when the camera's about, you can sort of flirt around with the idea that, oh, look at me, I'm training hard and I'm working hard and I love it. But just from going down there and even speaking to like Tony Sims and the boys in there, they will tell you nobody works harder than Conor Benn. If he's doing the road work, he will push and he'll want to beat his numbers, and he's annoyed if he don't. No, he's there to graft, he's there to work and come out with a legacy of his own and a legacy that ain't of his dad's. And that whole thing with Sebastian Formella was he'd gone 12 rounds with Sean Porter. Well, let me tell you one thing, mate, that ain't his claim anymore. Formella's new claim is that he went 12 rounds with Conor Benn, because this kid is going to go all the way, boys. Come on. Why not?
No, I completely
Why
agree.
not?
And actually, I was happy you said that, actually, because I wanted to say that as well. Conor Benn, there is no way he's needed to graft himself as a fighter, because he could have just walked through and thought, nah, fuck it, I'll just sort of, get on with boxing because I've got my dad's name. But I completely agree. I think he's a credit because he's not just, and he said it, I know he can say it, but I think we believe it when he says it because, like you said, he puts the work in. He ain't just sort of sitting there going, no, it's all right, I've got my dad's name. He wants to absolutely graft his bollocks off. And I think that's just, a sort of a credit to him because, like we said, you could probably look at, Chris Eubank Jr. and probably say the opposite a little bit. Not saying he doesn't graft and stuff, but for me, he sits on his dad's name a lot. Whereas Conor Benn, I just think he wants to be his own man, doesn't he? And I think, if anything, his dad's helped and let him do that. Like, his dad's been there for a bit, but look at him now. His dad's in Australia, while he's on fight week and stuff like that. I know it's obviously difficult because of COVID, but, he could sort of bust his ass to get over it. But no, he trusts his son. He wants to let his son get on with stuff. And I don't want to slate Chris Eubank Jr. because I think he is a good fighter, but I just think it shows the sort of two contrasts of, someone fighting on their name and someone fighting because they want to do it and because they want to work hard. So, yeah. But no, I think just to sort of wrap that up, British boxing, I mean, yeah, what a year. And what sort of schedule we've started with. I know it's obviously not the greatest for British boxing, but yeah, what a sort of, I mean, I said it to Ben as a sort of warm-up card, well, for a first one back, it didn't look the greatest, if you know what I mean. There was no sort of standout fights. Like, we looked at the Warrington fight and thought, right, well, this will be his comeback, 4 or 5 rounds, and that's it. So, I think it just shows we can probably look at a card like that and say it doesn't look great, but that's boxing for you. The outcome's not always that way. So, yeah, I think this year for British boxing will be brilliant. I'm looking forward to it. So last one, just to quickly say, I don't want to go too mad because, yeah, me and Ben said we could talk about this for years, but governing bodies, and I've put too many belts. Probably the reason I want to talk about this is just like, for example, for me, Fury Joshua, and that sort of, was it going to be for Undisputed, and were the WBO going to work with sort of other organisations? But yeah, probably it's hard, isn't it? I don't think, is boxing ever going to change and where we're not going to have all these governing bodies and stuff like that? Probably not for a long time, if it ever does.
I think, like, personally, James, like, from a personal point of view, it doesn't frustrate me so much like how many sanctioning bodies there are, but it's actually the behaviour of sanctioning bodies individually, if that makes sense. So, like, if you actually look at the IBO, I know people give it a bad name, but the IBO behaves probably better than any of them because they have one champion for every division. They stick to a mission statement. Their website, I mean, you can go and read. They try and stick to, like, down the line, one champion per division. Whereas you get like the WBA and the WBC, you've now got situations like we saw recently with the lightweight division, particularly with the WBC, where you've got, a franchise champion, to state the obvious, like interim, diamond this, world that. And like for someone like my dad, who's like sort of just coming back to boxing, he's finding it quite hard to stay engaged for that exact reason. It's just,
I agree. I completely agree.
Particularly for the casual, like, for someone like who likes Ryan Garcia, for example, you would, the way that WBC belt that he had, which obviously wasn't a world title, was presented, it looks like a world title.
Definitely.
To the casual, and it's not. It's just simply not. And Haney holds it. And then you've got Teofimo Lopez when he's presented with the belts with a franchise and another belt from the WBC that looks like a world title. So I'm starting to lose, patience with it a little bit, to be honest.
No, I know what you mean.
I'm starting to sort of think, maybe I'll just focus on the ring as a belt and who holds that. But I don't know.
And I think quickly to go to that. So talking about the ring, and there was a lot of people. I know obviously you had the Warrington Galahad thing before Warrington's fight, and Galahad said, "Well, Rings Magazine's not a world title," but I actually get your point, and I sort of agree with Josh Warrington in a sense of, well, Ring Magazine is sort of viewed as the sort of annual of boxing. So
it's the belt for me. I mean, from a personal point of view, like, you know, one's got to fight two to win it. So for me, it's the belt. It's the one with the most integrity at the moment, I'd say. And I think they behave really well. I mean, I know it's only a magazine belt, but yeah, they behave well. It's about how you behave individually. And I think, they're leading the way. And so the IBO for me.
No, definitely.
Yeah, I find it tough. Like, I look at the heavyweight division now. We got Joshua with the IBF and the IBO, WBA. There's WBA Gold, which is Trevor Bryant or Robert Hellenius, I think. And then you've got WBC, as Fury, WBC Interim, which is Povetkin. You know, why does he have to be interim? Can't he just be mandatory?
It's sanctioning fees, though, Oscar.
That says world champion as well. It's got world champion written around it. And then the WBO have got a global champ. Global. It's that I think of his name. Evgeny Romanov. WBO global champ. Got a belt that says world champion on it.
It's just, it's just they're coming up with more and more ways of saying world. Like,
you almost sound like you're talking about WWE there, the old Universal champ and stuff like that. No, I completely
it's going to get to that though. How long before we got someone doing the John Cena spinning belt in the middle? Do you remember that? Knock about one of them.
Floyd Mayweather. I don't know.
I'm not having that.
Recently, you had Floyd Mayweather talking a bit about it, and you know how frustrated he was. And you don't really tend to see Floyd Mayweather too emotional, really. You just tend to see him, you know,
he's
flashing
not the
off
most opinionated person, is he? What?
Just flashing his cars and like pushing his fighters. Really, let's be honest. But on that, he was very passionate, and like he was saying, you know, we've got to clean the sport up, because for the casual fan, if we want to attract more people, especially with the UFC growing at the rate it is, like people just lose interest. People just think, you know, why am I bothering?
Yeah, I think my old man says the same thing. Like, we'll be watching fights, and I suppose Benny's in the same category as yours, getting back into boxing when he used to be more of a boxing fan. And I've tried to push him towards watching shows he wouldn't have watched, and you got people parading around with an Intercontinental, and he's like, "Is that a world title?" And I'm like, "I don't know how to explain it, but it ain't the European, it ain't the world. I don't know what it is, but it's a piece of leather, and I don't really know what to say to be honest."
It's funny you say that, actually. Like, I live with my grandparents, and I watch some fights, and when the fight gets in the ring and, you know, the announcer's going for the Intercontinental, my granddad went, "It's just too many belts." And I'm just like, "Oh, Jesus." Like, it's true, though.
It's all sanctioning fees, James. Like, there's a reason behind it, and that's because they want fighters to pay them percentages, you know, and they're big percentages as well in a lot of cases. I know.
What are they talking about for the Joshua Fury fight? How much are they talking about, sort of the sanctioning fees they'll both have to pay altogether?
What is it, like 10% of your purse, I think, for the WBC? Like that, I think it's 10.
It varies with different belts, but I think their sort of bargaining token is, at some point we will put you in position for, we will put you as a mandatory, or you will be listed in the top 15 so you can be picked as a voluntary. So their bargaining tool is, look, you pay us the sanctioning fees, and in 2 years you can not cash out. That makes it sound like you're not asked about the actual fight, but you can get your shot at the world title. So their bargaining token's that. I'm not being funny. They do need to monitor who's got some of these belts and how well regarded they actually are when it comes to fighting for a world title. Look at who Josh Taylor fought. I'm not being funny. He had the punch resistance of a breadstick, right? And I like Josh, but the geezer come over, took a right to the body. It was a decent punch, but he's on the floor, including the count. It's like 50 seconds or something. Like, they need to look at who's got these intercontinental belts and
definitely.
Why. I mean, it's not even just the belts; it's the people that seem to be getting these world title shots, and as if it weren't confusing enough. And then you've got such walkovers in fights for such momentous belts. You know what I mean? You look at Ali holding belts, and they seem to have some sort of meaning. And now someone will do a nightclub appearance with a WBO Global. Like, it is a piss take.
Well, again, you could probably go to. Is it the WBA regular? Is that man? Is that
yeah? They've got WBA regular, and then they had. I think, who was it? Oh yeah, when Groves won the super middleweight, the WBA belt, it read like WBA super middleweight, and it's just like what?
It's madness.
But like the WBA super is meant to be the one of the WBA, and it's Joshua's got the WBA super, but like WBA super. Is what I know what you mean.
But how could what is this regular nonsense? Like I don't know. I could go on all day, I think, with this one.
I was going to say that we could all voice our opinions on that and sort of say, yeah, boys, brilliant. Just I want to end with both of you actually, Oscar. Just a quick one talking about IFL and just how you got into it and stuff, and the sort of just a bit of background really, just to sort of finish up.
Got lucky really. I was doing. Some geezer approached me because I'd done a couple. Me and Umar started an iTunes podcast about 2.5 years ago, and someone heard it and they was like, oh, "I'm starting a channel. Why don't you jump on?" And I was like, "I'll do it." Never went anywhere, and then I think IFL, MTK, Frank, Sky were churning shows out like there's no tomorrow. They needed an extra man. Umar put me forward. I went to York Hall, met Coogan. He said, "What's your boxing knowledge like?" I was like, "It's not bad." Umar said it's better than his. Like he pushed me for it, and then Coogan threw the camera at me and said, "There's Lucian Reed, interview him. I'll watch it tomorrow, and if it's good, I'll send you a message."
Jesus,
I was only there with my dad. I was going to watch my mate. I was only there with my old man, and I ended up getting a job out of it. So,
not a bad little Saturday night out then, probably.
Did you go to uni, Oscar? Before?
Yeah, I did. I graduated. Came through uni last May. Done journalism 3 years.
Right. That's what I'm doing.
So, yeah,
that's my course. Yeah.
I mean, nothing can prepare you, and I'm not some expert. Do you know what I mean? But depending on what sort of stuff you want to go into, I don't think anything can prepare you for that. Being faced with someone that you respect, someone you've looked up to, someone you know has some form of importance, especially with something you're interested in, which it was hard to get my head around with boxing. Do you know what I mean? I don't think anything can prepare you unless you do it. So I look at my interviews at the start, yeah, and they're cringeworthy. Like I'll send you a couple. Honestly, they're so bad. I look and think, why was I even offered this job? Like they're torrid, and now I can watch them like with a bit of pride in it. So I think that you'll notice it, Ben. Any sort of job you take on after, the journalism degree is like a piece of paper, but until you do it, like it's so nothing.
It must be, isn't
it?
It must be quite hard to remain like impartial, Oscar, as well. Like just on a sense of like how you've looked up to certain fighters, and how you're fans of, I'm guessing, certain fighters to a degree, and it must be quite hard. How hard is it to remain impartial when you're interviewing people?
The thing that makes it not hard for me, like I'm close with Josh, I'm close with his team, and I've got a lot of time for Josh, for Sean, for Nick from their team as well. And I had to ask him earlier about the question surrounding the corner, because obviously there's a fine line between a compassionate corner and a good corner. Do you know what I mean? And having to ask things like that, if you don't ask it, people are going to say, hold on, where's your your line of questioning, especially at IFL, gets questioned. So you either ask it or you don't do the job. So I'm always forced into asking it. Not that I don't want to, but if I don't ask it, there's a backlash in a way. So I ask the right questions, and you can still be on a level away from the camera where they know that you respect them in that sense.
I know. Do you know what? I actually pleased sort of with what you said there, because when I first started this, I was a bit like, I can't wait to see like the first one I did and see some of the sort of crap I'm talking and stuff like that. Because you don't realise until you've done it, and you don't learn sort of until you make the mistakes, and do you know what I mean? So I was quite sort of pleased you sort of said that, if you know what I mean, like in a sense of you sort of realise that, Jesus Christ, to start off with, I was
you learn on the job. You look at some of the stuff Coogan's done, yeah, and I'm not sitting here slating Coogan because for me, he's the best in the game.
I was going to say, you be careful, you know.
He's the best in the game at what he does, but I'll go on the YouTube dashboard and I could go date forward to back and look what he done in 2011 and look what he's doing now. There's a difference, do you know what I mean? So, like you learn on the job with this sort of thing. So,
totally. No, I just quickly ask Ben. I know obviously we spoke before and we said like we'll do a little thing. You said you had a few fight week stories. I don't want to go on for too long because we've actually, we've gone on for quite a bit. But just go on, try and give me your best fight week story. If there's one that you can sort of trim down and enlighten us on, what would it be?
No, it weren't more fight week stories. I've got tales to tell and that, but it's just more like the awkwardness that comes with the job that I just found like funny. Like when I'd done Smith Ryder and there was footage of me in the team rider dressing room after, and Eddie was getting questioned by Darren Barker, and he was he obviously promotes Callum and John, so it was a bit awkward, and I put him on the spot, and he said to me after, he was like, "Oh, we should have fucking turned that camera off." Next thing you know, back in the hotel, we're in the lift up, going to the same floor together, and the lift got stuck for about 30 seconds, and I didn't really know him back then, so we were just looking at each other like. I was just like, "This is a bit awkward." I was like, "Yeah, sorry for putting you on the spot there." I said to him, "I was like, sorry for putting you on the spot there." But
was that the night where Joe Gallagher lost it a little bit in an interview? I seem to remember. Well, not lost it, but he seemed to. I think you interviewed him that night with the John Ryder fight, and he what was he said? He was you were questioning him on the rematch, I think, and he ended up getting a little bit tense. How was all that? Like, how did that play out?
He told me to fuck off. Like.
I bet you thought, I am loving this job.
I walked out of there and I was like, Coogan, I'm going back to the hotel. We've got some views in the bank. That's what I thought. Honestly, like, it's all heating in it. Like, he just defended the Ring magazine title in the UK. I think he was the first man to do so for possibly 23 years. And Joe thought, going through the whole camp and the fight, that people weren't giving Callum the respect he deserved for the performance. And it's tempers, not that tempers flare, that's probably the wrong way to say it, but it's emotionally investing in it. These people, like Joe Gallagher's whole life for 6 months was all about Callum and this fight. So emotions ran high. He rang me the next day. I was on the train home. He was like, I was like, number I didn't know. He was like, Oscar, it's Joe. Just want to apologise. It all got a bit, what's it? And we get on like a house on fire now. But it's just, boxing is just fucking mad. Like, abuse in the interviews, I suppose, almost means you're doing a good job. Could mean you're being a bit of a prick, but it almost means you're half doing your job. So, yeah.
Nah, mate. Listen, I was saying to Ben the other day. Listen, IFL's been quality, I think, for a boxing sense. Just because I know Matchroom are trying to do a bit more now, but in a sense, IFL was getting that behind the scenes.
Got to stay loyal, though, eh, James?
Of course,
you got to stay loyal, mate. Yeah,
of course we have. But no, listen, I just think we all enjoy. I think if anything, in any sport, we all enjoy seeing the behind the scenes little bits. So yeah, no, I think it's been brilliant.
Mate, I wish I could bring. I almost wish I could bring more actual behind the scenes and less interviews in a way. Not less interviews, but
I know what you mean.
More of the footage. Like Laura just caused an upset bigger on the bookies than Joshua Ruiz, and I was sitting in his hotel room on his Uber Eats ordering him a pizza in English. Like all this sort of stuff. You just think like, because he said to me, he was like, pizza grand polo, and I was like, big chicken pizza. And I was like, sweet. So like all of this where I'm interviewing him, but there's so much more that goes on that I almost wish I could share with people, but there are only tales in it. You know what I mean? I wish I could almost have a GoPro strapped to my head and let people know what it's like. He's done all that, and I'm sitting there on his hotel bed. Like it's fucking insane. I can't even tell you how mad it is, but
Oscar count.
As long as people enjoy it.
Nah, definitely, mate. We're listen, as I said, and I ain't just saying this because I'm 80. I honestly thought that interview after with Eddie was just brilliant. Honestly, it was just complete. It felt for me like it was from the heart. Like you were talking, just you almost just sort of thought, nah, I'm not even going to bother holding back. I'm just going to go for it. Like you just sort of, you went sort of hammer and tongs and sort of,
He's an easy man to do that with. I'll say that
Definitely.
Eddie is an easy man to do with. Such an easy man to deal with, and outside of the bubble atmosphere, when there's more media, he's got time for everyone. I don't want to come across like a company man because I like Frank, I like Eddie, I like Bob. Do you know what I mean? But Eddie's a blessing to deal with. So not many people you could be perhaps out up front with that would take it on the chin. And it was no slight on Eddie either, really. But the way he responded, I thought was more credit to having to interview him and how easy it is.
Absolutely. Ben, just yourself, mate. Like you were saying, I know you're at uni studying journalism. I mean, listen, boys, I've loved it tonight. It's been brilliant talking, like I said, we enjoy watching the IFL videos because we enjoy hearing the facts and things like that. But I think we all like talking a little bit of shit about boxing sometimes, don't we? Let's have it right. Sort of, and I think we do that a lot, and it's good to sort of, say what we think and stuff like that. So, for me, Oscar, IFL's been, I think, been brilliant. And probably Ben, like what I was going to say was, do you sort of look at stuff like that and sort of think, yeah, that's something I can look at and take notes from and things like that? Would you say?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, Oscar's got my dream job, so that's pretty much.
Get on the phone to Kuganos. Get him a job, son.
That's pretty much the job. That's the job.
Honestly,
right there, so.
after this weekend, you should see just quickly how many people have said to me, "Do you have any spaces?" So if there's a space, mate, I'll give you a shout. If there's a space, I'll give you a shout.
Mate, yeah. Yeah, no, like, yeah, certainly. I think IFL. I listen to Five Live Boxing with Costello and Bunce. Those two they're probably for me the best in the business when it comes to boxing. I know James doesn't probably agree with that one, but yeah, those two are great, and a few other YouTube sources as well. I'm sure James goes to as well, like me, like Seconds Out. But yeah, IFL's definitely been for me my favourite source of information. So yeah, keep at what you guys are doing because it's brilliant.
Keep up the good work, definitely, boys. It's been a pleasure. I think it's been a long one, but no, it's been a pleasure, boys, and I think, like we said, let's look forward to a good year of boxing and big fight this weekend. I'm going to do like.
Can I just give a little shout out quickly?
Of course you can.
See this hat? Yeah, I'm not taking it off because I've got a bad hairline. Yeah, I don't even know if you can see it in the light. Yeah, Mark Gatsney. It's Lee Woods. Lee Woods got his own hat company.
What a win for him at the weekend.
Title at the weekend. Yeah, and soundest guy, nice, comfy. I'm going to try and promote his hats like her now. But yeah, honestly,
I'll cut this bit out. I'll cut this bit out. No, I'm joking.
Cut this bit out. I'm only wearing it because I've got shit hair at the moment. But honestly, mate, get on to them. Their hats are banging. They're cheap, stylish, sweet.
Don't. No, actually, it's funny you say quickly. Just, I'm literally going to finish it on this. Funny you say about Lee Wood because I know Ben is a big Ben Davison fan. So big up Lee Wood, and what a win at the weekend. Big up. But no, boys, listen, pleasure, and thank you, Oscar, mate. Yeah, it's been a pleasure, and you know, I'll plug you boys. Go and listen to IFL seriously, and I'm not just saying it because he's here, but seriously, that interview of the weekend was brilliant. So go and give it a listen. And Ben, let's keep our fingers crossed. You know, a couple of years' time, we could see you on the old scene. Keep our fingers crossed. But no, boys, been a pleasure. Thanks a lot. Episode 2, JD Talks. Cheers, boys.
Cheers, Oscar. Cheers, James.
Oh man, James.